welcome back to Media and More. I'm on with my buddy Stuart here. Now, we all have, in our groups, we all have our little specialty. I do models, and one of our other buddies, he does comics and everything. Stuart, you're kind of the movie guy. I mean, you see a lot of movies, but we also we connect on every different level. So we're all superhero guys. And like Scott, he's a Spider-Man guy. I'm a Batman guy. You're a Superman guy, right? And we all kind of gravitate. I feel like we all gravitate towards the character that we kind of want to emulate or best fits our personality, possibly. So I don't notice a whole lot about Superman. I see it's coming out or whatever. It's just kind of in the background of my head. But then I happened upon this trailer, the Superman trailer by James Gunn. And so it was just like this big, magnanimous, the music is just like blaring. And I was like, okay, it's not like we haven't seen Superman before. I mean, we've had Superman almost constantly since 78. So what made this, why is this special? What is different about this Superman than what we've seen before?
Are you asking what's different that made you feel different, or what's different that made people respond?
Yes.
Yes. So
I'm at both because for me, it's my first thought, honestly, was why do we need to retell the Superman story again?
Sure.
We know the story, so why again? So how do we get here? Why was this necessary?
I think you said Superman's been pretty much available on the big screen or the small screen, like on TV, since 1978 when Superman the movie came out.
Yep.
Which is true to a degree, but I think the reason there was a big response to the Superman trailer is because people miss Superman. People miss Superman the way that he is supposed to be. And I think that the versions of Superman that have been available to us for the past few years have had something about them that was a little off, even though they had their fans, right?
Right.
Primarily, those fans were fans of a certain director and making, how do I say, deconstructing something that was inherently wholesome and colorful and making it dark, right? And making it kind of something that it's not supposed to be. And so the reason that we need Superman now is because it's not just for what the state that Superman has been in, but it's the state that comic book movies have been in. For the past couple of years, we've had, Marvel movies were a huge cultural deal, right?
Right.
And then Endgame came out, and it was a fantastic finale for everything. No Way Home, Spider-Man No Way Home came out, and it was fantastic. Brought everybody back to the movies. But if you think about the superhero movies from the past couple of years, it's been Venom, it's been Kraven the Hunter, right? It's been The Crow last year, Aquaman 2.
Really?
A bunch of movies
Aquaman 2 in that?
Yeah, I would put Aquaman 2 on that. It's been the Marvels. It's been Morbius. It's been a bunch of movies that people didn't do very well, were not received very well. B, are all about more, again, darker, violent, more, trying to appeal to a younger, cooler demographic, right?
Okay.
And I think generally people who are not fans, just the general public, knows what a superhero is supposed to be and what Superman is supposed to be. Superman is not cool. Okay. Superman is not cool.
No. You would no.
Okay, go ahead.
This is coming from a Batman fan. You're going to have to quantify that, to qualify that statement. Okay, let me. Okay, here's my knowledge of Superman comes from basically Superman the animated series. I mean, I'd seen the movies and I like the movies, and it's kind of with Batman because I'm not a comic book reader, and so that's kind of my introduction. And so in watching Superman the animated series, that's kind of where you get the light and dark between Superman and Batman, right? So I feel like so when you say Superman's not cool, are you meaning he's not cool as in suave and that kind
I mean,
of cool?
he's not cool. He's not cool in the same way Captain America's not cool. He's so uncool that he's cool. He's wholesome. He is polite.
Yeah.
He is comforting. He is kind. He's thoughtful. He's all the things that you want your mentor, your father figure, your friend, when you're feeling down, to be the person that you go to for comfort. You want that person to be like that. And that's why trying to make him this sort of like angry bully, which is what I see with a lot of the modern versions of Superman,
where did you see that though? Where did you see that? Where did you first feel like it was going that way? Because I can't imagine that Christopher Reeve was that way.
Oh, no.
Right. I mean, by the time you get right. Okay. So by the time you get to the Quest for Peace, you're just like, okay, we're done.
Quest for Peace wasn't great, but I think that still got the character. What was the core of the character was still there. And then Superman kind of went away for a while after that. And they tried to bring him back in 2006 with Superman Returns.
Right.
And there was a lot wrong with Superman Returns. One thing was it was too precious about trying to recreate a previous era. It tried to tell a story about people who were older, who were coming back. Like it was about Superman who was coming back from being gone for 5 years, and yet the actor who played him, which I like,
was that Brandon
Routh? Yeah, I mean, none of the actors looked their age. Lois Lane had a 5-year-old kid, and she looked like she was, I don't know, 20 maybe.
Yeah.
It didn't have the gravitas that it needed, and it didn't. There are a number of reasons it didn't quite work. The tone of it didn't quite work, and then Man of Steel came along,
right,
in 2013, and man, in Man of Steel, he spends the entire movie angry, and he's angry at the guy at the truck stop.
Rewatch these, man. I don't remember that.
Angry at they tell the movie through flashbacks. He's angry at the bullies who bullied him at school. He's angry at the guy at the truck stop. He's constantly like holding back and wanting to punch someone. And finally he gets to punch someone because the bully's the bad guy, right?
Right.
The big bad guy who's just as powerful as him. And it's not that there's nothing of Superman in there. There's joy, there's some romance, but it's not quite right. And I think that, and then it gets worse in the next movie when he's like, well, no one stays good in this world, and all, he becomes disillusioned and stuff like that. And
that would be Batman versus Superman.
Batman versus Superman, yeah.
Okay, so I liked Man of Steel. I didn't love it. I think the part that got me, that made me go, no, was when he kills Zod.
Yeah.
At that point, I was just like, not my Superman. He would have come up with a different way, and that's where I get your point on the dark and gritty, and it's just like, but they were trying to go for, this was something that had to be done because he would not stop. There was no stopping him, and this was the only way to do that.
The thing is, every version of Superman, including Man of Steel, including even back to Christopher Reeve's version in 1978, has not really been the comic book version of Superman, in that the character was there in the Christopher Reeve films, but the whole point of Superman the movie was, what if we brought this, nostalgic creation of like the 1930s and 40s into the real world in the 1970s?
Yeah.
Right? Have him, he's like a fish out of water and stuff. And that was a cool idea. And they got a lot of mileage out of it, where he's like saying golly gee and stuff. And Lois Lane is like, nobody talks like that and whatnot. And that was cool. But what we've never seen before, and what I think we are going to see, is the Superman of the comics existing in the world of the comics, where he exists in a world that is as fantastical around him, so that even though he is special as a character, like it's not that he's this one special element and the whole rest of the world is normal, right? It's a fantasy world and he's part of the fantasy. And that to me is also really exciting, because I grew up reading those comics and I would love to see that finally.
So, okay. All right. So what makes it fantastical, magical? I mean, how does the rest of the world fit into that box of this Superman? Because well, I mean, if you look at the trailer, and I was going to preview the trailer, but I mean, if you haven't seen the trailer, take a moment, go look at the trailer.
Everybody's seen it.
Right.
Like,
well,
it got like 250 million views in 24 hours. It was huge. Wow.
That is huge.
I saw news articles like, people are distracted from work, which was true of me. I kept watching it at work.
Well, because I was off and I was working on a model, and I had the TV running, and the first, that the way that trailer opens is with Superman plowing into the ground, breathing heavily and bleeding, and I'm like, whoa, wait, what?
Which is brilliant. Which is a brilliant way to open it, by the way.
Well, there's so many fake trailers out there. I was just like, oh, this has got to be fake, Yeah. But I kept watching.
Yeah. Well, the whole trailer is like Superman is injured, right? Yep. And then you see everything is sort of couched or nested in Superman is injured. He calls for Krypto, his faithful companion, who comes running and takes him back home, right? And everything else you see is just kind of intercut between those things. Right. And so from the beginning that Superman's in bad shape, which I feel like is a commentary not just on Superman, not just on the movies, but like on the world, right? We feel like we're in bad shape and we need someone to take us home and to comfort us and to care for us, right? And that's a lot of that's kind of the spirit of Superman, and that's why I think so many people responded to it. Okay. But the other thing is that the bits that get me is seeing Superman save children. I could watch Superman saving children in slow motion, and watch Superman and watch little kids, help me, Superman, pray. Yeah, I could watch that. Yeah. I could watch all. You could just make that the movie, and I'd be fine. I don't need to see him snapping necks. I need to see him saving people. Needs that, though. I really don't think you need that. I don't think you need to see Batman snapping necks. Well, I mean, since we're talking about media, I went to see the Deadpool Wolverine, and it took me a while. There is so much violence in that movie. Yeah.
It took me a long time to go, okay, this is the structure of this movie. And I think that I was so against that kind of thing being in my hero movies, the cussing and the sex and all the gratuitous violence. It took me a while, but eventually I liked that. And I think there's a place for it, which is Deadpool over there.
I mean, that's what Deadpool is. Deadpool
is my Superman and my Batman and my Justice League.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's what Deadpool's always been. And they did that. They found the tone of that character, and Ryan Reynolds plays him really well. But that's that's an edge case, right?
Yeah,
That's like
yeah,
that's not what superheroes are in general. That works. The only reason you can have a character like Deadpool who's like kind of breaking the fourth wall and poking fun at the genre is because the rest of the genre exists, right? If it was all that, then it wouldn't be fun to see
right,
somebody poke
right.
fun at it. You know what I mean? So I think it's fine to have a couple of characters who exist kind of on the fringe who are like that, but that doesn't invalidate the whole rest of the genre, which exists for another reason. You know, does that
Right.
make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, exactly. I agree. So that's left. We left off at Batman versus Superman, and
Oh yeah.
the
Oh,
violence.
I tell you what, I got. I went to see Batman versus Superman opening night, and I was so glad that they had a bar in the movie theater because that movie was so bad. I've tried to watch it since then, and I just can't. I can't get all the way through it. I've tried, but they got.
So
It's not. It's not just that it's it's comically bad to me. Like there's so much about it that's wrong. But what's unforgivable is what they do to Superman. Is I can understand Superman being discouraged, right? But being cynical, I can't take that.
yeah, I can see that. I can see
You
that.
know, I can't. It's just not right. And it's just, to me, the fatal flaw of all those that whole cycle of movies was in Man of Steel when the tornado scene. The tornado comes, and Pa Kent goes to get the dog out of the truck, and the tornado's coming, and Clark has a chance to save him. And Pa Kent says, "Nope, do not reveal your powers or whatever. Just let me die." And he does. He just lets him die. He lets his
That's a
father die.
powerful.
I'm like, no, like I don't know that the character can bounce back from that. That's not because I get him having like I love the deal in Superman the movie where his father dies of a heart attack and he still feels the guilt or the pain of knowing that even though he can like do all these wonderful things, right? All these special things, he can't stop death, right?
Right.
Then it makes him try even harder, right? Because he can't accept it. I have to still have to try. That's different from he had the chance to save his father
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
did not do it.
But
No,
he listened
no.
to he listened to his father. I mean, I I actually like that moment. It it takes. I guess I'm a lot easier to please, and again,
Yeah.
this is your hero. This is your. It's like I feel like this character inside and out, and if it were switched around and you were talking about Jedi, I think I would be just as passionate
There's
because
a
I feel like that way about the Jedi or this thing, and it would not happen that way.
well,
So
so I think no, I think this is a perfect time for Superman to come back because people are sick of superheroes. And and the market is flooded with bad superhero movies and dark superhero movies and violent superhero movies. The people have
well,
forgotten what superheroes are supposed to be. And so now is
well,
the perfect time to be like, look, no, it's this. This is what you're missing. You know?
so all we've been talking about so far is the movie. So
Yeah.
we went Batman, Superman,
Yeah.
and then we went to the Justice League, right?
Oof.
And then Zack Snyder's Justice League, right? So you've
Yeah.
got that. But in the animated, do you ever watch any of the animated stuff?
Yeah, no, some of the animated shows are good. Yeah. They're
Because
fine.
I think
The one
one of
the thing is that they're all adapted from or they're mostly adapted from comics. So if
right,
they're good because they are faithful to the comic.
right.
All-Star Superman is one of my favorite Superman stories. And I can't really watch the movie because it leaves so much out and the animation I feel like is so inferior to the art of the comic. But I see why if you hadn't read the comic, I could see watching the movie and thinking it was
Right.
good.
Yeah. Well, I get that. Everyone just like, well, if you read the
You know,
comic, it's the same argument with movies and
yeah.
novels, But I think one of I I like the Batman animated stuff
Yeah.
better. I think they make more of it. But I think
Batman sells.
It was Superman, Batman, Superman enemies or something like that.
Public Enemies, yeah. Yeah, that one's pretty
Yes,
good.
that was the one. I
That was
think
based on a run of the comic books that was pretty good, yeah.
the moment that
So
stood out to me was, the giant Batman Superman robot that's
yeah, I
getting
remember
ready
that.
to go up
That was good.
and Lex supposedly had killed Superman, or Superman was trying to stop the robot, whatever the case was.
Yeah.
But I guess was it Batman turns to Lex Luthor and says, "You just killed my best friend."
Yeah.
And I was that was like, I don't think I ever thought about them as being best friends like that, but at that moment that kind of changed my perspective about those two characters.
Batman doesn't have a lot of friends, is the thing.
Yeah. So I was just like, okay.
There's another there's another really good one that from more recently called Battle of the Super Sons. Have you seen that?
I was going to bring that up. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
But the thing is, I think that those are really, I don't think they penetrate the culture as much. Most people don't see them. People who are nerds see those movies.
Right.
And B, they're all based very insularly
and their kids.
Comic book stories.
Yeah.
They're not. It's not gonna penetrate like a major motion picture is going to.
But you need it to, and I think that's
I think so. I think okay. Go back to so we started in 1978, but go back to when Superman was what he was in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, especially in the 50s. I mean, Superman was a household name, right? It wasn't like kids who were nerds. It was everybody knew who Superman was. Everybody watched it.
Even in that let's say, okay, for the general populace, well, let's just agree that this is kind of the dead period between 78 would be when it came back, and say throughout the mid 60s up to 78. So there was a good, let's say 15 years. Even at that, at Halloween time, you could always find like a Superman costume or whatever. So it's like it didn't leave the culture. I think that well, okay. We did have in the 70s, we did have the cartoons. We had the Justice League cartoon, and so I guess you did have that, and you did have the comics. But I think Superman is just and we also had reruns, because I remember coming home from school and watching the Superman, the early Superman TV show after school and through the summer. Yeah. So again, it's never really left.
No, it's never really left, but it's just kind of gone dormant. It's gone. It's a thing that you remember, that is out there, but it's not current. It's not something that's like. And I think there's a difference between something that's currently in the culture and something that's just like, hey, you remember this thing, from your childhood or whatever. And I think that's what people are really yearning for. And I think that. Do you remember that line from the Avengers movie, the first Avengers movie, when they ask Captain America to wear his suit again, and he's like, I don't know, isn't that a little old-fashioned?
Right.
And the guy's like, well, with everything that's going on, I think people sometimes they need a little old-fashioned, and I think that's what it is. I think that the feeling that you get from the Superman trailer is, oh, that's Superman.
Right. Well,
actually, that's coming back now, right? And with crypto, and with all the weirds, the dragons, and saving the kids like praying to Superman. There's Lois at the Daily Planet. Like, one of the things that's so irritated me is how much they've sidelined the Daily Planet stuff and sidelined the secret identity stuff. Even when you do have Superman on the screen, he's rarely ever Clark Kent. And you never get to see the Lois and Clark and Jimmy interaction, And that, I love that stuff. Like, the idea that, and everybody can relate to that. Everybody can relate to being kind of a different person at work than you are at home,
Oh, right.
You got your work personality and your home personality. Sometimes when you're with these buddies, you're this guy, and when you're with your family, you're this guy. And it's kind of the same way with Superman. He's one person when he's at work. He's one person when he's home on the farm with his family. He's another person when he's Superman and he's like saving people and shit, So I miss that.
Okay, so I guess my other question is, and it kind of leads, and we get this information from the trailer, you have, because I'm trying to figure out kind of what era this is, because you've got Hawk Girl, you've got Mr. Terrific, which Hawk Girl is a character that I am aware of. And Mr. Terrific, which is a character I'm not familiar with. And then
Mr. Terrific is cool.
And then you've got Nathan Fillion.
As Guy Gardner.
Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner. And I'm like, why?
I can't stand Guy Gardner. I hate Guy Gardner. But I'm happy he's there, though. He's like a strong spice,
Right. Well, here's the thing. The reason I think they had to kind of go with him, and this is just based on kind of my little bit of knowledge based on the animated and everything else. They couldn't use Jon Stewart because there's that relationship.
They got a TV show going on, right?
Do they?
I think there's going to be a Green Lantern TV show coming out.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, okay. Yeah. Well, and maybe that's it. But I kind of figured the reason they wouldn't want Jon Stewart there is because, at least in the animated, they have a relationship. They become an item. And so I think that's a distraction from where we're going with Superman. But and you couldn't use Hal because
we can't use Hal for a while now, I think. Hal's tainted.
Yes, Hal. I will.
It's kind of like why you still can't make a Howard the Duck movie,
Well, but the thing about it is, the thing I took away from that is I think it's a shame because the actor that played, was it Sinestro? Was fantastic. I would have loved.
I actually didn't think that movie was that bad, honestly. I thought the Green Lantern movie was fine. But I get, I get why. Yeah. I didn't think it was great, but it was fine.
Right.
But I get why they don't want to have Hal. I think so. Here's why I think they have all those characters in there. First, I think those are some of James Gunn's, the writer-director. I think those are some of his favorite characters, and they're more obscure characters.
Right.
Guy Gardner and Hawk Girl and Mr. Terrific are not usually on T-shirts and stuff, right?
Right. And that's normal.
And that's what he does. I mean, when he made Guardians of the Galaxy, nobody fucking knew who Rocket Raccoon was and shit like that. I mean, maybe some nerds did, but like he took all these characters out of obscurity and he made them popular, right? And that's what he's doing. That, and also I think that you said earlier, why do we need another Superman movie? Why do we need to start this again? Everybody knows who Superman is. And I think the movie agrees with you. I think that's why we're starting with so many heroes already in the world. I think he knows that everybody already knows who Superman is. Nobody's going to want to sit through another origin story. So he's going to start from the middle of the story. The world is already populated with superheroes, just like the movie landscape, just like in the real world, the movies are already populated with superheroes, right? So, and yet we're disillusioned with them. They're failing us. They're letting us down. And so something has to happen to sort of like bring us back. And that's why I think you have those characters there who are not sort of, A-list characters.
Right.
I think they're the characters who are, Mr. Terrific. I think Mr. Terrific is going to be, another like a B-level hero who's going to be on Superman's side, I would suspect, because he's awesome. But Guy Gardner, I hate Guy Gardner. I can't stand Guy Gardner.
Everybody hates Guy Gardner.
But I'm sure I will enjoy
him. I just know everybody hates him.
I'm sure I will enjoy hating him in the movie, though, because I love Nathan Fillion.
Yeah, I mean, just the expression on his face is just like, oh, you're a jerk.
I can't stand
You're a jerk.
Yeah, I can't
So
stand it. I don't know how he managed to survive being in comics this long, to be honest.
well,
I would sometimes not buy a comic book if Guy Gardner was in it.
so I guess to me that's like maybe he's in there to give us something. Maybe he gets offed in
I think
the thing to bring somebody else in. I mean, but there's just so many other characters that you could bring in. But you'd have to bring a character in that's not going to overshadow the rest of the story.
I don't know what the story's about, obviously, other than it's going to have Superman, it's going to have Lois Lane, it's going to have Lex Luthor.
Right.
But I think that it's intentional that he chose to make the S on Superman's chest resemble the S from the comic book Kingdom Come. Okay. And in the comic book Kingdom Come, it's a future story where in the future Superman's been gone and superheroes have sort of devolved into like gang warfare. And they're constantly bickering over territory and they're constantly fighting and people don't like them anymore and they're just causing collateral damage everywhere they go. And then Superman comes back and says, enough of this foolishness, I'm going to clean this up. And I think that there's going to be something like that where Superman takes a stand on something that pits him against other, so-called heroes or something like that. I don't know. But I think it's important that it happens in a world filled with heroes already, because that's another way to sort of point out how special and different Superman is. He's not just another guy in a cape, right? He's someone that if he shows up, you immediately breathe a sigh of relief because he's kind, he has your best interests at heart. He's not just there to punch the bad guy, right? He even wants the bad guys to be saved, right?
Yeah.
And so that's, to me, I've heard some people compare to, have you seen the Paddington movies?
No.
So it's the kind of same vibe I get from Superman as I get from Paddington. Paddington is this character who just moves into people's lives and they're all cynical and hate each other. And he just, by being kind and different, he just changes people. And that's what I think of Superman. And that's what I hope that the movie brings out of Superman. And by showing us that they're incorporating characters like Krypto, who never would have been in a Zack Snyder movie. In a million years, never would have used Krypto. And if he had used Krypto, he would have been like, a rabid, snarling demon dog, right? Or something like that. Like, Krypto is a good boy.
I noticed the dog so did the type of dog they use, is it more consistent with the older classic? Because
I think it looks like James Gunn's dog.
No.
I think he used a dog that looked like his own dog.
Okay.
Fair enough. He looks close enough to Krypto. I mean, he's like a shaggy version of Krypto. He's
okay, because I'm used to Krypto being like a very lean, short-haired, long-tailed. I will have to say, when Superman's laying there in the snow, bleeding, which was kind of off-putting. I'm like, wait a minute, Superman doesn't bleed, and if he did, would his blood be red? You're like,
what could have caused this?
Yeah,
immediately searching. Yeah, what I love,
when he whistles. And all you see is this plow of snow. I'm like,
the cloud. Yeah,
it's Krypto. Yeah. It could be no one else but Krypto.
And what I love about that too is the people that dismiss Superman usually say he's not relatable because he's too powerful.
Yeah.
Right. So if you start right away with he's injured, he's out of commission, that immediately shows that no, this is interesting, right? What could have happened? And also, no, he's not too powerful. It's just that, to me, everything that happens to Superman is on like a Paul Bunyan scale, right? It's not that he doesn't have problems. It's not that he can't be defeated. It's just that his problems are all like on a on a grand scale, right?
Yeah. So do you feel like uh, they're going to depower him? I mean, because wasn't I'm sure in all the years that Superman's been written that this has come up about him being way too powerful. But I mean, he does have weakness. He's got a weakness to magic, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I never really knew how to interpret that. If it meant that he's extra weak to magic, or if it's just that he has no special invulnerability to magic or something like that. You know what I mean? I never
yeah.
was sure what they meant about that, but there's definitely been times over the years where they made a conscious effort to make him weaker. And like in the animated series, he was, excuse me, he was noticeably weaker to where, he would get shot with a tank shell or something. He would be, stagger back and get hurt and stuff. But every time they do that, he comes right back.
Right.
He always comes back to being like, juggling planets power. And okay. I kind of prefer that because I think that it's too easy to just say, well, he's not strong enough to do it. What's more interesting to me is, okay, well, he can do anything, but he still has to prioritize, right? He can't save this person and serve this priority or whatever. He can't, like in Superman the movie when he couldn't save two people that were both in danger at the same time, right? That stuff is more interesting to me. Like, he's super powerful, but yet he still has to make choices. And what do those choices say?
So do you see a certain number of villains from his rogues gallery not being used because of this is a different a kinder, gentler Superman? I cannot see this kinder, gentler Superman defeating Darkseid.
I just think Darkseid's been overdone now. And Doomsday.
Yeah,
I think that
wasn't that the point of those characters is to say that he's not all powerful. Superman is not all powerful. Superman.
Yeah, I mean,
but it took a huge level to do that.
I prefer Lex Luthor. I prefer somebody like Lex Luthor because when you make the villain someone that he can just defeat in a fight or not, and the drama is, can I punch him harder or can he punch me harder? That's not as interesting to me. What's more interesting to me is when he goes up against Lex Luthor, who has a plan to not just defeat Superman, but like humiliate him, to make people see him differently, right? To make people see that he's not the hero that they think he is, and things like that. That's more interesting to me. If Superman's enemy is someone who's against him, I don't know. I don't want to say mentally because that sounds like mentalism, but
right.
Philosophically, someone that he has to convince, or that's, I don't know, that's more interesting to me. So I miss villains like the Toy Man and stuff,
Okay.
Like I don't need to see Superman in a punching match with someone.
Yeah, I guess I cannot see if this were like a week to week show. I don't see this week's villain is Toyman. Next week's villain is Darkseid.
Well, I get that you need that element there. So which is why I think whoever Superman obviously is fighting somebody. He's fighting somebody in the ballpark, right? There's a scene that's in a ballpark where he's clearly fighting somebody. Somebody fought him when he fell into the snow, right?
Right.
So I think they have it both. They're probably going to have it both ways, where there's a physical element to the peril as well as a philosophical element. So hopefully we'll get the best of both worlds. I don't know.
So I made a list of Superman's rogues gallery, and I know some of them I don't know. So I guess for you, my question would be, if I'll go down this list and you tell me whether this Superman would have this villain, would fight this villain.
Okay.
So now the first one is the Anti-Monitor. And the only reason I know about the
Oh, gosh.
Anti-Monitor is because I watched
You want
the
to?
Crisis on Infinite Earths series.
I mean, you want to save that one. You want to save that one for 5 movies down the line, I think.
Okay, no, so
Yeah.
you could. Okay, so it's a maybe.
Could,
I think
yeah.
they're alphabetical.
Oh, okay.
So it is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
We started with a big one.
Yeah, well, so Bizarro.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I don't like. I had heard that. I don't know. I can be kind of sick of Bizarro too.
Yeah, I could see
I
that.
think I like Bizarro when he's kind of used to make a point, like he was in the animated series, when he was sort of like this tragic figure.
Mm-hmm.
But when he's just like a joke, and the joke is, look, he's kind of dumb.
Yeah,
Look,
right.
It gets old, or look, the joke is that he like says the opposite of what he means. That gets old, But yeah, I could see it.
Brainiac.
Yeah, but again, you want to save that one because he's. What I love about Brainiac is that, again, it's not necessarily. It is partially a physical challenge, but I love one of my favorite Brainiac stories is when he essentially upgrades all of Metropolis. It was in the year 2000. Brainiac, and it's been that long since I read it, but essentially he turns Metropolis into the city of the future.
Okay.
I don't remember how that came about.
Sound like a bad thing, except for
well, I mean,
the city of the future.
Nobody really knows how to cope with it, though. I think, and there was a great mini series that came out of it, where it was all about like, Jimmy Olsen investigating all the ways that the city has been like changed by alien technology and stuff, and I'd be interested to see Brainiac used in some interesting way like that, where he's doing something with technology and not just like a robot that punches Superman.
Oh, okay, that's fair. Well, Darkseid.
Darkseid's been done to death.
Right.
I mean, he's just not that interesting a character.
I'm going down. He's alphabetical, man. Alphabetical. Because the next one's Doomsday.
Doomsday's been done to death too. No pun intended.
I don't know why.
And also not that interesting. They made him a little bit more interesting when they revealed that he was this like experiment that like every time he dies, he comes back with like having evolved to be immune to whatever it was that killed him last time.
Right.
But generally, I mean, he's just a mindless brute, and that's not what I read or watch.
I could live without it. I think when the comic originally came out, I was just like, I was like, no, I've never.
No, I didn't. Yeah, when that came out, I was like, why couldn't it have been Lex Luthor that figured out a way to defeat him? Instead, it was just like a mindless zombie, crawls out of the ground and then beats him to death. And I mean, it was emotional because it was like, well, Superman's dead. That's not good. But at the same time, I was like, it's so very late 80s, early 90s, where everything was about all the dudes had giant muscles,
right?
And all the women had giant breasts, and it felt like just that simplistic, kind of thing going. Like, how do we get kids to read this? Oh, we'll have a giant muscled Hulk creature beat him to death, and with blood splattering across the panels and stuff. And it didn't speak to me.
Just the thought that puts me off. I'm just like, no.
I would much rather have it be like Lex Luthor has a plan to like block out the sun or something like that. I don't know.
Okay, so what about Zod? General Zod.
Poor General Zod has also been. I don't think you can touch him now for a while.
Okay. No,
because he was used in Man of Steel. And of course, it's going to remind everybody of the neck snapping,
right?
Which I thought Michael Shannon did a great job with that part, but it just, in the end, the way they used the character just didn't serve the character, I thought.
What about Lobo?
Lobo would be great. I would love to see Lobo, but I'd love to see Lobo as more like a comic foil. not a villain. I don't really think of him as a villain. He's more like a Wolverine type character who just
Yeah.
kind of does whatever the fuck he wants, you know. So, and I'd heard a rumor that we might be getting Jason Momoa for Lobo, and I think he fits that character much closer than he does Aquaman.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's true, but
I see. I'm on the fence of that because I think okay. I think
I like to see. I enjoy seeing the interplay between Superman and Lobo, though,
yeah.
because one of them is just like, I don't give a fuck. Don't tell me what to do. you know.
So okay, Jason, that's going to be a whole nother podcast. The Aquaman thing.
Mhm.
I think I like what Jason Momoa has done with Aquaman because Aquaman was a joke for so long. It was just like he talks to fish and
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, he was the butt of many jokes. I mean, even the Big Bang Theory did jokes on it. So I think that using a popular character to make it cool. I mean, that's been done forever. But it's a little bit flies in the face of what we know of Aquaman as being blonde-haired Viking guy.
I think they made him cool by making him a totally different character. Is the problem? I think they just said, let's just make him like, a biker bro, and put him into an environment that's basically like Conan but underwater, and go.
But right.
My favorite version of Aquaman. Did you see Batman: The Brave and the Bold?
Yes,
cartoon?
I was going to bring that.
Guy?
I'm just like, he's insane.
I love that guy, and that's again. I think also making him a bit of a different character, but it's unique enough though. I liked it.
He was way too close to the SpongeBob character. What was that? Merman. That's what that character reminds me of, and I'm just like, oh god.
I mean, he was like the Tick. Did you ever watch the Tick?
No. See, and this is where
he's just like an over-the-top superhero who's just like supremely self-confident, to his own detriment, right? And just will always
watch the Tick.
Run into danger, and somehow he'll survive because of luck, and then attribute it to his own skill.
Right. Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I really enjoyed having this conversation with you. And if it's okay with you, once this has been aired, once the movie has aired, that you come back and we have a conversation afterwards. Does that sound okay to you?
Yeah, it sounds great.
So I'm a little bit nervous as to how this is going to play out because it could be good or it could be bad. It's very open. It's very open.
I haven't really seen any bad James Gunn movies in the past 20 years, though. So
I don't follow directors like that. So I couldn't name 3 James Gunn movies off the top of my head.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3.
See,
that's 3. He also wrote Scooby-Doo, and I love Scooby-Doo. He wrote both Scooby-Doo live action movies.
Like Scooby-Doo. I did like Scooby-Doo. Guardians of the Galaxy 1
was called The Specials, which you should look up.
You know what? I think I've seen those too.
Yeah, because The Specials. It was like a low budget superhero movie. It was in the style of like a documentary being filmed of like the world's second most obscure superhero movie on the day they were going to get some prize, or no, they were going to be turned into action figures or something like that. And it starred Rob Lowe. Maybe I haven't seen that. Who else? Yeah, and then there's like no special effects. There's no action. It's just a comedy, right? It's kind of like this is Spinal Tap with superheroes. And it's hilarious.
Well, maybe I have to check that out.
Yeah. If you can find it. I don't know if you can find it anymore.
Guardians of the Galaxy 1 was an introduction to the characters for me, so I was like, okay. 2, I think, was of the 3. I think I can't even say I like all of them completely. I think I like pieces of all 3.
Yeah.
So
Part two might have lost me a little bit with the Pac-Man thing. There's a bit where it's him. It's like Star-Lord launches into the air, fighting his father, Kurt Russell, remember? And he becomes, or he brings all the rubble together in the shape of Pac-Man. Remember that?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, too far.
Yeah. I would agree.
Yeah. But I still liked it overall. But I was like, oh, yeah, for a couple moments, yeah. And the dance off in part one was questionable. I don't know. Yes. I don't know if I would have gone with the dance off. Yeah. Overall, I think those movies are good. And I think with if you saw The Suicide Squad, which is the second Suicide Squad movie, that was really good.
Yes,
it introduced the Peacemaker, who was great.
I've not watched that yet.
I think he's shown again and again that you can, or that if someone can, I guess not everyone can. You can find these characters who are overlooked, and bring them out and create new pop culture icons, right? Rocket Raccoon and Peacemaker and those guys. I mean, and Star-Lord, like nobody would have known who those people are, without James Gunn. And now, and they're great, and they're heartfelt, emotional stories. Rocket Raccoon's story in part 3 was like gut wrenching, So I have faith.
I struggle with that third one. I really do. I'll have to watch it again. I saw a clip the other day, and I struggle with. It's not what I'm looking for in a superhero movie. As far as that balance between, for me, the balance between comedy and hero is Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah. Oh, Thor Ragnarok.
I mean, there was a lot of comedy in that.
Yeah.
But it told a really good story. You felt for all those characters. I mean, especially Valkyrie. It was just like she went from being funny and playful to serious like that.
Yeah. I love Thor Ragnarok. There's not a single note in that movie I would change. Loved it.
So okay, I guess we'll go on all night. So,
but I mean, no. Obviously, we haven't seen the movie. Hasn't come out yet. It hasn't even been finished yet. But I just think that. No, I think he's still editing it, still deciding. Because I think in the last one of the interviews I read, they were like, "How long is the movie?" He's like, "I don't know. It's probably not longer than 2.5 hours, though." So he's still tweaking it, right?
Okay.
But I think
that doesn't make me feel good. Because you can
come out till July.
Yeah.
He's got a few months, to make some decisions.
You got to have that. At the 6-month mark, you should have it locked down. But maybe not necessarily in the. I don't know. If you're still messing with it in 6 months, I don't know. We can get find a pass to a preview to them. Just
I would love that. I would love that. I had an opportunity to see like a press early screening for the Christopher Reeve documentary.
Mm-hmm.
Just because the people that I work with know that I'm a huge Superman fan, a huge Christopher Reeve fan. I have like a little statue of Christopher Reeve at my desk and stuff, right? So they got me an early screening to that. So I'm kind of hoping that they'll remember that, next summer.
Well, hey. But then you still couldn't talk about it until after it was released to the public.
Yeah, I couldn't talk about it. Like there was a lady. Well, there's a lady there who was sitting next to me in the screening, and then had a clipboard. And when I left the screening, she was asking everybody who was there what they thought for quotes and stuff to give back to the studio, I guess. And I was just like, I didn't know what to say. I was just like, didn't you know? I was sitting right next to you. Didn't you notice me like sobbing through half the movie? I think
that says it all.
It was good.
That doesn't translate in print. One viewer was sobbing his eyes out. Right. I'm just like, I really want to go see that now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anywho.
She probably didn't include that, I hope.
Yeah. Well,
No, but it did okay. And it's a great timing for that too. It's great timing for them to have released that just like a year in advance. You know, it's on HBO Max, so a lot of people can see it.
I think I've seen
to
the
remind people of
report.
like the legacy of what Superman has meant to people and stuff like that. So, because I think that's what they're trying to, harken back to.
So, is there an actual release date, or is it just say June 2025?
It's July 11th.
July 11th. Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Unless I got it wrong. Yeah.
Well,
So it's like a week before my birthday.
but you know what? The thing about it is, if it were a week later,
yeah,
we could watch it while we were in Louisville.
Oh, well, Louisville's gonna be that late. When's Louisville?
It was just released today, like May 31st to June. That May 31st to July 2nd.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so if it was the following weekend,
yeah,
that could be our Saturday night movie. So yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I enjoyed it, and maybe we can find some other topics that we can discuss.
That would be cool.
All right. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I'll see you later.
Pew 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 pew. Come on.
I have to. By attending this meeting, you consent to being recorded.
Yes.
I hereby provide my consent. Cross my super shield, which is better than a heart.